Lord, just give us your peace as we come this morning to actually concentrate on your word, Lord. Just give us inspiration, we ask in your name. Okay, I will read the passage. Now, there's one word that is very expressive in this. Now, I wonder whether you can pick up the word that I'm going to particularly use in this passage, but we'll see. Okay, this is Hebrews 10, 1 to 10. The law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not realities themselves. For this reason, it can never be by the same sacrifice repeated endlessly year after year, being made perfect, those who draw near to worship. If it could, would they have not stopped doing the offerings? For the worshippers would have been cleansed once and for all, and would no longer feel guilty of their sins. But those sacrificing are an annual reminder of sins, because it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. Therefore, when Christ came into the world, he said, "Sacrifice and offering you do not desire, but a body you prepared for me. With burnt offerings and sin offerings you were not pleased. Then I said, here I am. It is written about me in the scroll. I have come to do your will, O God." First, he said, sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not desire, nor were you pleased with them. Therefore, the law required them to be made. Then he said, here am I. I have come to do your will. He set aside the first to establish the second, and by that will we have been made holy. The sacrifice of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. Quite an amazing passage. In the Old Testament, daily sacrifices were required by the law of Moses. Yet it says it's impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. This was only an interim system, and it's seemingly pointless, because all you do, it's a revolving system that goes on again. You've done it one day and the next day you've got to do it again. But there's a very expressive word in this thing. I don't know whether you picked it up. One word that I think is a kind of the word that says it all. Did you pick it up? I wonder. The word shadow. It's a shadow. Now let's have a look at a shadow for a minute. The shadow has no substance. The shadow is not real. A shadow is not an image or a photo. There's no definition. It's not stable. And it's normally only black and white, or kind of blackish, darkish. And it's constantly moving, because the sun moves and the shadow moves. If there's no sun, there's no shadow. So it's a very expressive word of what the law was, because it's something that must have been very difficult to live under. And a reminder that you've done it today, but tomorrow you've got to do it again. It's like Alice in Wonderland running, and she's running, and actually she isn't running, she's running on the spot. A silly story, but she gets nowhere. And this kind of position is that in the old system, it must have been desperately frustrating, because you do the same thing tomorrow and you do the same thing next year. Naturally, very depressing. And I can suggest that now, even in our time, there's an awful lot of people, of course, who don't know the gospel at all. who are living in this situation of kind of doing things daily, feeling they had not competent enough, but then they try hard, but it doesn't work, and it's going back, and it's still happening very much in the world today, I believe. It's very interesting. If you look at Christianity, there is no other religion as one great happening that brings salvation and freedom in one step. Throughout the world, only Christianity, based on the death of and resurrection of the Son of God, has a universal offer of salvation, eternal life, freedom, and it's a one-stop shop. The amazing nature of what God has done by allowing Jesus to die on our behalf is absolutely stunning. There isn't this continual sacrifice. There is a one sacrifice. And when we come to Jesus, as you know, the answer is he receives us, although unworthy. Now, just looking at the lifestyle, and it mirrors the lifestyle today, I think. Looking back, the lifestyle based on the law was never satisfying, based on many laws that were brought up to kind of try and feel that you were actually getting close to God. And the Pharisees insisted on having laws, even kind of tithing your mint and herbs. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous, isn't it? So I just want to read a passage in a book. Now, this book, actually, believe it or not, it hasn't got Al Semple's name, and it's got mine in this time, so it's one of my books. It's Philip Yancey's book. In truth, we Christians find it much easier to follow a God. We just obey his commandments. The Jews in Jesus' day envisioned a ladder reaching higher and higher towards God, a hierarchy expressing the very architecture of the temple. Gentiles and half-breeds, like the Samaritans, were permitted only in the outer court. And a wall separated them from the next partition, which admitted the Jewish women. The Jewish men proceeded another stage further, but only priests could enter the sacred area. Finally, only one priest, the high priest, could enter the most holy place, and that was once a year. This whole structure and society, in effect, the religious caste system based on steps towards holiness, and the Pharisees scrupulously reinforcing the system daily. All the laws on washing hands, avoiding defilements, were attempts to make themselves acceptable to God. Had not God set forth desirable, spotless, and undesirable, flawed, unclean animals? Had not God banned sinners, menstruating women, physical, deformed, and other undesirables from the temple? Isn't that right? In the midst of all this system, Jesus appeared to the dismay of the Pharisees. No qualms about socializing. He touched. Oh, you can't touch a leper. He prayed. He did things absolutely out of the book. He came to do something totally different. Jesus' attitude was totally different. And there's one paragraph, yes, right down here, I must say this. Take an example of the revolutionary changes Jesus set in motion. Consider Jesus' attitude towards women. In those days, believe it or not, you're going to believe this, at every synagogue service, Jewish men prayed, "Blessed art thou, O Lord, who did not make me a woman." Interesting. Goodness me. So we see that particular situation. But we see Jesus, you see, free, absolutely free. He went in John 4, he got to the place where the water was, and he asked a woman who was a prostitute and had 4 husbands. That was utterly out of line. You just wouldn't. He asked her help. He wanted some water. It's continuous, this type of thing. The thief on the cross, the one word, and he was given salvation. The total difference of what Jesus does is absolutely stunning. And we have a staggering message made for the world, the message of salvation, the message of grace, and we know it, and the power of grace. And the interesting thing is, I'm going to leave with a very interesting point here. We can talk about the gospel. The gospel is stunning. We receive it and we say, fantastic, absolutely amazing. It totally changes our attitude. But we preach and we talk and people don't receive it. But we say, well, it's obvious. It's so stunning. What is the problem? Now, I'm going to leave this with you. It's quite an interesting reading here that actually shows one reason why people don't respond. I think this is a very interesting point. If I got this one, I can find Matthew. Yeah, where is the one up? Oh, Matthew 13, 10 to 15. Yeah, that's right. This was when Jesus had talked about the sower, the seed, the sower and the seed, and the disciples said to him afterwards, why do you continue to talk in parables? You haven't kind of given the answer. You haven't answered the question. What's the point? What I love this parable, but what is the principle behind it? And Jesus replied, the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom have been given to you, but not to them. Whosoever has will be given more. He who doesn't will be given less. This is why I speak to you in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not understand. This fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will ever be hearing, but never understanding. You will ever be seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears. They have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. Now, this is an interesting kind of the veil that God has allowed to be put there. And it's a kind of a strange situation in a sense that there is this kind of situation where we go with the gospel, but there is something of this veil that's there, which is why very frequently people don't receive it. And it's a difficult situation to kind of pick up. And I thought I'd bring this up at the end. And it probably does need more thought and looking at, really, in a sense, because God's put it there in a sense in the way. But I think there is a sense in which he's saying, well, we don't want people to just come into the kingdom and say, oh, funny, want to come in. And that he wants people who are committed. And I don't know quite the balance of that. I would maybe ask Al to perhaps be more constructive on that particular issue. But I'll leave it with you because I do think it's a very interesting issue, which we have to deal with. And I thought I'd probe it and leave it with you as an interesting feature at the end. But the conclusion, of course, is the stunning issue that we now have a God who's given us everything. We don't have to go back daily. We have forgiveness. And yet, or if we've sinned, we go to him and we receive immediate healing. And that is absolutely stunning. It takes away so much of the pain. We have a God who loves us more. As I think the phrase was, he can't love us more and he can't love us less. Whatever we do, there's a depth and a breadth of his love that is totally outside of our understanding. And we need the whole of our lives to kind of get to grips with this, I think. Okay, guys, that was where I'll leave you.